Welcome to Composition 2. My name is Dr. Burkett, and I want to introduce you to basic literary concepts, explaining in part how literature works. How does literature work? Well, the 9 concepts on the left help readers appreciate and understand literature, while the devices on the right we'll discuss in the 3 literature analysis units, which form 3/4 of our class. Mimesis is a main concept and means mirror of nature or mirror of society. Mimesis is the primary dramatic phenomenon acting out a verisimilitude of realistic events. Is literature true or is it false? Well, some answer yes or no or both. Well, Plato, if you remember from his Republic, told all the artists and the writers of literature to get out of his ideal republic. But Plato's star pupil Aristotle disagrees, and Aristotle answers this question: the difference between the historian and the poet is not that between verse and prose. No, the difference is this, that the one relates to actual events, the other the kinds of things that might occur. Consequently, poetry is more philosophical and more elevated than history, since poetry relates more to the universal, while history relates particulars. Well, in this line of thinking, while literary art is not historically true, it can rise above everyday events to articulate general lessons and higher truths. Well, in this perspective, fiction can be truer than fact, in that it gets to the heart of the matter. The main idea is it's not real, but it can be true. Ambiguity is a virtue in literature, and discussed by Humpty Dumpty and Alice. When I use a word, Humpty Dumpty said in a rather scornful tone, it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. The question is, said Alice, who is the wisest of girls, whether you can make words mean so many different things. The question is, said Humpty Dumpty, which is to be the master? That is all. Well, yes, which is to be the master? Public language or private intention? Statistically speaking, Alice has fact on her side, for a finite vocabulary cannot account for an almost infinite number of concepts, things, moods, and meanings. Can one match the public letter to the private spirit exactly? Well, we as speakers and writers try. Language is enabling, but language in literature will include ambiguity. Ambiguity refers to multiple meanings. Given a valid case, I can't say something means anything I want to, but I have to make an argument, a valid case for the meanings I assert. Literature is ambiguity raised to the highest degree. The aim at its noblest is not to confuse, but to capture the irreducible complexity of life and language. In expository prose, certainty is desirable, certainty of meaning resulting from the author's intention communicated clearly. And this applies to history, epistles, and most communication that we engage in every day. In literary poetics, however, ambiguity is desirable, ambiguity of multiple possible meanings resulting from the richness of language to function on levels other than the literal. Well, ambiguity is viewed as a virtue in literature, for some meanings are understood only by those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, who understand how to identify with characters' diverse perspectives, and how to recognize literary perspectives in various figures and turns. Well, multi-meaningfulness can operate from the single word, verbal ambiguity, to the whole text, literary ambiguity. A question arises, why do readers enjoy ambiguity? That is, multiple meanings. And how do they grow from finding new, valid meanings, truths, and perspectives? Well, you might consider Proverbs chapter 1, verse 6. The main idea is literature speaks with a forked tongue. Hermeneutics focuses on interpretation, how to find and make meaning of text. A paradox comes in the hermeneutical spiral. I can only understand any part after I understand the whole work. But I can only understand the whole work after I first understand all the parts singly. Ergo, I must never completely understand the work, but perhaps I can understand it adequately or even expertly. The lesson is, read once to enjoy, twice or more to understand. And the main idea is reading and understanding are two different things. Now, what about the term hermeneutics itself? In origin, it's a philosophical rather than a literary term, particularly popular among German biblical scholars of the 18th and 19th century. The plausible origin of the term is relevant and witty. In Greek mythology, Hermes, or Mercury in Roman mythology, is the winged, healed messenger of the gods, and this divine postman was charged with making divine utterances comprehensible to the less than divine human intelligence on earth. But Hermes is also the mythic patron of liars, so watch out for what's lost in translation and what is lost in delivery. Regarding the fairly new term textuality, one enjoys literary art, the older term, but analyzes text. Where does one focus analysis to find meaning? Well, is meaning found in the text itself, according to formal theories? And our class is learning formalism, focusing on the text itself, which is where one must start. Is meaning located in the author's intention, according to expressive theories? Is meaning recreated in the reader's experience, according to rhetorical and reading theories? Is meaning reconstructed in the system of linguistic signs, according to mimetic theories? Well, answers are complex and contested, but part of the answer certainly is that it depends on the genre and how and why one reads. The term text suggests a field of activity where the critic is free to analyze or dissect the text, where literature can be legitimately studied in detail once it is taken apart, analyzed, and put back together again. To whom, then, does the object and the meaning belong? Well, the author may own the work, but the critic lays claim to the text, the interpretations, and the meaning. Narrative is a grand concept. In the beginning is narrative, even grand narrative, by which I understand myself and the world around me. Literary theorists distinguish between story and narrative. Story directs attention to what is told, the themes or the subject matter. Narrative attends to how it is told, the techniques. Critics find both valuable, but especially technique. Several issues arise. The art of literature lies in telling, the narrating, not in what is told, and the raw materials of fiction are, in themselves, just that, raw. Concentration on narrative has created a fascinating critical climate and technical vocabulary, with implied readers, implied authors, unreliable narrators, and so forth. But there's another issue at stake, that the stress on narrative creates commercial ownership, or liens, as lawyers call them, the commercialization of literature. Novelists own novels, poets own their poetry, and film directors and film companies own their films. But who owns a fairy tale like Cinderella? The Brothers Grimm or Walt Disney can pick it up for free and handle it very differently. No one owned the Oedipus legends, but in the hands of Sophocles, Oedipus Rex became a masterpiece. Well, the main idea is the art of literature lies in the narrating, not in the story. Where is human identity found? Where is the center of human identity, character, and action? According to literary theorists, and Moses and Jesus, I think, identity is not a function of the head, but a matter of the heart. And this is what St. Augustine had written a long time ago. I am what I love, meaning that the object that I love helps define me, and I become more like the object of my love, which means it's so important to follow the greatest commandment. In the modern era, René Descartes says, I think, therefore I am, and makes identity a function of the head and of the individual, nothing outside of himself, such as the Lord. Well, poets and psychologists find that human action is pulled by the heart's vision and desires more than pushed by ideas. Whereas the scientific and philosophical traditions, including theology based in philosophy, privileges the mind, the literary tradition does not make that assumption, but focuses on the heart. Heart is a holistic metaphor for the whole person: mind, values, emotions, and culture. The main idea is humans become more human as shaped by good literature. Formation, educational and spiritual formation, implies that human identity is and should be shaped by various good literatures in order to grow and mature and even become more human. Genre has different meanings to different people. For the retailer, genre is a shelving and location question, where to retail and sell books. For the author, genre is a different kind of concept, a kind of educational and social club actually, with sets of rules, conventions, subject matter, styles, and fashions for the writer. Authors can pick up plots, techniques, and styles from other club members. Writers of genre set up associations with prizes for outstanding writers. Well, genre as a category is less of a fixed box and more of a technique, an enabler. Well, some precision is in line here between form, genre, and style. Novel is not a genre but a form, and Aristotle discusses comedy and tragedy as dramatic styles or subgenres. Well, the main idea is tell me a story similar to the last story. Genre simply means kind or type, from Latin genus and Greek genos, referring to a category with similar generic features. Literature has four major genres: prose fiction, also called narrative fiction; prose nonfiction, including memoir, history, epistle, and so forth; drama, including comedy and tragedy; and romance; poetry, lyric, sonnet, hymns, psalms, free verse. And the main idea is writers don't just write, they write in genres, always, and one should know those genres in order to appreciate them and even write them, whether it is prose fiction or prose nonfiction, including the academic essay. What is a classic? Well, that's a delicate question. Authors and critics propose three elements at least. Antiquity. Classics are old books, which people still read, or, according to Mark Twain, a classic is something that everybody wants to have read and nobody wants to read. Well, classics involve civilization in that they're both civilized and civilizing, hopefully with humanizing civilizing traits. Well, imperialism. Classics have an imperium or empire behind them. For instance, does Luxembourg have classics? Does Moldova? Where are their Homers, their Shakespeares, Virgils, or Cervantes? Well, classics come from old countries with mature civilizations and a certain amount of cultural clout in the world. Moreover, classics feature certain persistent and pliable themes that make them both antique and yet modern. The classic is the gold standard of literature, but all that glistens is not gold, is not classic. Well, style is not just a personal, but also a literary concept. Everyone has a particular style as unique as fingerprints. The writer Raymond Chandler emphasizes the most durable thing in writing is style, and style is the most valuable investment a writer can make with his or her time. Style is shaped by personal voice and public language. There are personal styles, regional styles, national styles, period styles, genre styles, and professional disciplinary styles. Writers can intentionally change styles over the course of careers and by intentional mimicry of other characters. The main idea is everyone may have one, but good style is hard to come by. Why are endings so important to audiences? Well, literature has at least three components, as we have seen: exposition, complication, resolution, followed by an ending. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, referring to Brunhilde, who is a Valkyrie in Germanic and Norse mythology, featured in the grand climax of Richard Wagner's operatic cycle ring of the 19th century in Germany. Well, why do we perceive the world in terms of beginnings and endings? Do people have a closure gene that craves closure and coherence, happy or otherwise? Could it be that humans reflexively interpret the world around them teleologically in terms of beginnings and endings? Well, nowadays, many narratives are open-ended, and that's how I view the book of Acts, the never-ending story which involves people today, involves the reader. Well, the big idea is literature loves a good ending, whether open or closed. Well, through our concepts, we have discussed why people read and some concepts about how literature works. Well, blessings to you as you continue this class. I hope to see you next time.